My name is Alex, and what happened to me in Yellowstone National Park in the summer of 2019 still keeps me awake at night. I was an experienced hiker, 27 years old, in the best shape of my life, and I'd conquered trails across 3 continents. But nothing, and I mean nothing, could have prepared me for what I encountered on the Granite Creek Trail. It was July 15th. I remember because it was my younger brother's birthday, and I'd promised to call him from the summit. The weather forecast showed clear skies all week, perfect conditions. I set out at dawn, the air crisp and pine-scented, my pack loaded with 3 days of supplies. The trail was supposed to be moderate, 12 miles to the backcountry campsite, then back. I wasn't alone on the mountain that day. I'd passed at least 6 other hikers on my way up, exchanged the usual pleasantries. Beautiful day. Stay safe out there. Normal stuff. Around mile 7, something changed. The forest went quiet. If you've spent time in the wilderness, you know what I mean. There's always sound, birds, insects, whine through the trees. But this was different. This was a silence so complete it felt like pressure against my eardrums. I stopped walking, suddenly aware of my own breathing, my heartbeat thundering in my chest. That's when I noticed the trees. Every single pine tree in my immediate vicinity, maybe 100 feet in every direction, had these strange markings on them. Not bare scratches, not trail markers. These were symbols carved deep into the bark, all at exactly the same height, about 7 feet up. The symbols looked old, but the wood inside the cuts was still pale. Recent, very recent. I told myself it was nothing. Vandals, bored teenagers. But teenagers don't hike 12 miles into the backcountry to carve matching symbols into dozens of trees. And my gut was screaming at me to turn around. I should have listened. Instead, I kept going, trying to shake off the unease crawling up my spine. Another mile passed. Then I saw the backpack. It was sitting in the middle of the trail. Bright red, impossible to miss. Brand new by the looks of it, with a fancy hydration system still attached. I called out, "Hello? Anyone there?" My voice sounded too loud in that suffocating silence. No response. I approached the backpack slowly. There was no sign of a struggle, no blood, nothing disturbed around it. It was just placed there, deliberately. When I opened it, my hand started shaking. Inside was a wallet with an ID. Christopher Brennan, age 34, from Seattle. Behind the ID card was a family photo. Christopher with what looked like his wife and 2 young daughters, all smiling at a beach somewhere. His phone was there too, fully charged, but locked. And then I found the journal. The last entry was dated that morning, same day as me. It read, "Something's following me. Can't see it, but I can feel it watching. The trees have marks on them. I think they're warnings. If you find this, don't follow the child, no matter what it says. It's not a child." The entry ended there, mid-sentence, like he'd been interrupted. That's when I heard it, a child's voice singing, "Ring around the rosy, pocket full of posies." It was coming from off-trail, maybe 50 yards into the dense woods. A little girl's voice, high and sweet, but something about it was wrong. The melody was slightly off-key, the timing too slow, too deliberate. "Hello," I called out, my voice cracking. "Are you lost? Do you need help?" The singing stopped. For a moment, there was only that crushing silence again. Then, "Come play with me." The voice was closer now, much closer, but I couldn't see anyone through the trees. Every instinct I had told me to run, but if there was a lost child out there, I took 3 steps off the trail. That's all. 3 steps. And I saw her. She was standing between 2 massive pines, maybe 30 feet away. A little girl in a white dress. Couldn't have been more than 7 or 8. Long dark hair covering her face. She was completely still, hands at her sides, facing me. "Are you okay?" I asked, my throat tight. "Where are your parents?" She didn't move, didn't respond. And then, slowly, she tilted her head. Too far, Way too far. At an angle no human neck should bend. And when she spoke, her mouth didn't move. The voice came from everywhere at once. Why won't you play with me? Christopher wouldn't play. The others wouldn't play. Why won't anyone play with me? Her voice had changed. It wasn't a child's voice anymore. It was deep, guttural wrong. I ran. I don't remember consciously deciding to run. My body just moved. I crashed back onto the trail and sprinted downhill, my pack bouncing violently against my back. Behind me, I heard branches breaking, something moving through the forest with impossible speed. Not running, gliding, and that voice, that horrible voice, kept calling after me. Come back. We're not done playing. Alex, come back. It knew my name. I hadn't told anyone my name. I ran for over an hour. My lungs were on fire, my legs screaming. I must have covered those 7 miles back to the trailhead in record time. When I finally burst out onto the parking area, there were people there. A park ranger, some day hikers, normal people. I collapsed, gasping, tried to explain what I'd seen. They found Christopher Brennan's body 3 days later, 8 miles from where I'd found his backpack. But here's what still haunts me. The coroner said he'd been dead for at least 3 days before I found his pack. His body was found in a location that should have taken him hours to reach, but there were no tracks leading to it. No trail. No signs of how he got there. It's been over 5 years now. I don't hike anymore. Can't bring myself to. Sometimes, late at night, I still hear that voice. That child's voice that wasn't a child at all. Alex, come back. We're not done playing. And the worst part, last month, I got a message on social media from an account with no profile picture, no posts, no information. Just one message. I'm still waiting for you. The trees remember your name. I've never gone back to Yellowstone, and I never will. My name is Florence, and I need to tell someone what really happened to my fiancé in Crater Lake National Park. The official report says he wandered off the trail and fell. Accidental death. Case closed. But I was there. I saw what happened. And what took David wasn't an accident. October 2021. David and I had been planning this trip for months. A weekend getaway before our wedding that December. We chose Crater Lake because David was a photographer, and fall at the lake is supposed to be breathtaking. We arrived on a Friday afternoon, checked into the lodge, and planned to hike the Watchman Peak Trail the next morning. That night at the lodge, we met an older man at the bar. He must have been in his 70s, local by his accent, wearing a park ranger uniform that looked decades out of date. He overheard us talking about our hike and leaned in close. "Don't leave the trail," he said, his eyes deadly serious. "Doesn't matter what you hear or see. You stay on that trail." David laughed it off. "We're experienced hikers, sir. We'll be careful." The old man grabbed David's wrist. His grip was surprisingly strong. "I'm not talking about being careful. I'm talking about staying alive. People go missing in these parks. Thousands of them. You know why?" We shook our heads, uncomfortable now. Because they follow things they shouldn't follow. They investigate sounds they should ignore. And once they step off that trail. He released David's wrist and stood up. "Well, let's just say the forest has been hungry lately." He left without another word. David and I laughed nervously, chalked it up to a local trying to spook tourists. We didn't laugh later. The morning was perfect. Cold and clear, the lake an impossible shade of blue below us as we climbed. We took hundreds of photos. David was in his element, capturing angles and light that made even me appreciate why he'd chosen photography as his passion. We were about a mile from the summit when David stopped dead in his tracks. "Did you hear that?" he whispered. I hadn't heard anything. "Hear what?" "Someone calling for help. Off the trail. That way." He pointed into a thick grove of mountain hemlock trees, their branches heavy and dark. I listened. At first, nothing. Then faintly. I heard it too. A woman's voice, desperate, crying out, "Help me. Please, someone help me. I'm hurt." David immediately started toward the trees. I grabbed his arm. "Wait, remember what that man said. We should call the Rangers. By the time they get here, she could be dead, Sarah. Come on." He pulled away from me and stepped off the trail. I should have stopped him, should have called out, made him wait. But the woman sounded so desperate, so real. I followed him into the trees. The forest swallowed us immediately. Within 30 feet, I couldn't see the trail anymore. The trees were too thick, the shadows too deep. David was ahead of me, pushing through branches, calling out, "We're coming. Keep making noise so we can find you." The woman's voice kept leading us deeper. Always just ahead, always just out of sight. "Please hurry. I think my leg is broken. I can't move." We must have walked for 15 minutes, maybe more. I was about to suggest we turn back, get proper help, when David stopped so suddenly I almost ran into him. "Sarah," he breathed. "Look, in front of us was a clearing I don't think should have been there. Perfectly circular, maybe 40 feet across. The ground was covered in dead pine needles, but in a pattern, arranged in concentric circles, spiraling inward toward the center. And in the center was a pile of belongings. Backpacks, at least a dozen of them. Some looked new, others ancient and rotted. Hiking boots, jackets, cameras, personal effects scattered like offerings. And the smell. God, the smell. Like something had died and been left to rot for weeks. "We need to leave," I said, panic rising in my throat. "David, we need to leave right now." But David was staring at something else. A camera, sitting on top of the pile. His hand reached for it. "Don't touch it." I screamed. Too late. The moment his fingers closed around the camera, the woman's voice stopped. The forest went silent. And then we heard it. Something else. Something that made my blood turn to ice. Footsteps. Dozens of them. Surrounding the clearing. But when I spun around, I couldn't see anyone. Just trees and shadows and those footsteps. Getting closer. Crunching through dead leaves and branches. Slow. Methodical. Hunting. And then they stepped out of the trees. They looked human. At first. They had the right shape, the right proportions. But something was off about them. Their movements were too smooth, too fluid. Their faces were blurred, like looking at someone through frosted glass. And they didn't blink. Not once. There were 7 of them, forming a circle around us. One of them, a tall figure in what looked like ranger clothing, stepped forward. When it spoke, its voice was wrong, like multiple voices speaking in unison, slightly out of sync. "Thank you for answering our call. We've been so lonely, so hungry." David grabbed my hand. His palm was slick with sweat. "What do you want?" The figure tilted its head. "To play a game. A test. You choose one of you to stay, one of you to run. If the runner makes it back to the trail before we catch them, they both live. If not," it gestured to the pile of belongings, "you join our collection." "That's insane," I shouted. "We're not playing any. You don't have a choice." All 7 figures spoke in unison now. "The game has already begun. Choose, or we choose for you." David looked at me, tears streaming down his face. "Sarah, run. I'll stay. Just run. Please." "No. David, no, we'll fight, Will." He kissed me. Hard. Desperate. "I love you. Run. Now." He shoved me backward, toward a gap in the circle. The figures parted slightly, just enough for me to squeeze through. I could see trees beyond them, darkness, and a glimpse of what might have been the trail. I ran. God forgive me, I ran. Behind me, I heard David screaming, not in pain, but shouting, yelling, making as much noise as possible to give me time. I crashed through the forest, branches tearing at my face and arms, my lungs burning. The footsteps were behind me, unhurried but constant. They weren't chasing. They were hurting. I don't know how long I ran. It felt like hours. The trees all looked the same, the shadows playing tricks on my eyes. I kept seeing David's face, hearing his screams. They'd stopped after the first minute. That's when I knew. When I finally burst back onto the trail, I collapsed. 2 hikers found me minutes later, called the Rangers. They organized a search party immediately. I led them back, tried to find that clearing, that horrible circle of death. But we never found it. The forest looked completely different. No clearing, no circle, no pile of belongings, and no David. They found his body 3 days later, 5 miles from where I said we'd left the trail. The official report said he'd fallen from a cliff, broken his neck. But I saw his body at the morgue before they closed the casket. There were no injuries consistent with a fall. There were marks though. Handprints. Dozens of them. All over his body. Like he'd been grabbed and held down by countless hands. The camera he'd picked up? Never found. Neither were his phone, his wallet, or his wedding ring. Just his body, arranged peacefully at the base of a cliff he had no reason to be near. I got married last year. Not to David, obviously. Took me a long time to even date again. My husband, James, is wonderful, patient, understanding. He knows about David, about what I claim happened. He doesn't believe me, but he doesn't judge me either. Last month, we were going through some boxes in our attic. Old stuff from storage, things I hadn't looked at in years. James pulled out an old photo album and started laughing. "Hey babe, come look at this. Who's this guy? Looks like a total creep." I walked over, looked at the photo he was pointing to. It was from my wedding trip with David, the night at the lodge, and in the background of one of our selfies, barely visible in the corner, was the old man from the bar, the one who'd warned us. Except in the photo, he wasn't alone. Standing behind him, slightly out of focus, were 6 other figures, blurred faces, ranger uniforms, all of them staring directly at the camera, directly at David and me. And at the bottom of the photo, someone had written in handwriting I didn't recognize. She chose correctly. We'll be waiting for her next visit. I've never been back to any national park. I never will. Because I know now, they let me go not out of fairness, but because watching me live with the guilt, the memory, the fear, that's part of the game too. And the game never really ends. My name is Robert Thorne, and I used to be a park ranger at Great Smoky Mountains National Park. I say used to be, because after what happened in November of 2022, I can never work in any park again. I can't even look at trees without feeling sick. What I'm about to tell you is the reason why they established new protocols for missing person searches in the Smokies. It's also the reason I sleep with every light in my house on. November 12th, 2022, 4:47 p.m. I remember because I was about to go off shift when the call came in. A 9-year-old boy, Tyler Morrison, had been separated from his family on the Alum Cave Trail. They'd stopped for a snack, turned around, and he was gone. Vanished in the time it took them to open a bag of trail mix. This happens more often than you'd think. Kids wander off, get distracted, lose sight of their parents. 99 times out of 100, we find them within an hour, scared but safe. But this was late afternoon in November. We had maybe an hour of daylight left, and the temperature was dropping fast. A 9-year-old in a light jacket wouldn't last the night. I joined the search team with 4 other rangers. We had the parents give us a detailed description. Tyler was wearing a blue jacket, jeans, red sneakers, brown hair, green eyes, a small scar on his left cheek from a bike accident. We spread out, calling his name, sweeping the area with flashlights as the sun sank below the mountains. By 6 p.m., we covered a 2-mile radius. Nothing. No tracks, no signs of disturbance, no responses to our calls. It was like the forest had swallowed him whole. That's when I heard the singing. At first, I thought it was one of the other rangers. But this was a child's voice, high and clear, echoing through the trees. "You can't catch me. I'm the gingerbread man. I keyed my radio. This is Thorn. I've got audio contact. Southwest of the trail marker 7. Moving to investigate. I followed the voice deeper into the woods. The singing continued, always just ahead, leading me further from the trail. My flashlight beam cut through the darkness, illuminating ancient oaks and the fog rolling in thick and wet. "Tyler," I called out. "Tyler Morrison, this is Park Ranger Thorn. Your parents are worried about you, buddy. Let's get you somewhere warm, okay?" The singing stopped. For a moment, there was only the sound of my own breathing, the crunch of leaves under my boots. Then, "Okay, Mr. Ranger, I'm over here." I found him sitting on a fallen log, maybe 50 yards off the trail. Blue jacket, jeans, red sneakers. He looked exactly like his parents had described, down to the scar on his left cheek. He was smiling, swinging his legs, completely unbothered by the cold or the dark. "Hey there, Tyler," I said, relief flooding through me. "You had everyone real worried. You okay? You hurt anywhere?" "I'm fine," he said cheerfully. "I was just playing. Did you want to play with me?" Something about his tone made me uncomfortable. Too cheerful, too calm. But kids process stress differently, I told myself. "Let's get you back to your mom and dad first, okay? Then you can play all you want." I reached out to take his hand. He grabbed it eagerly, and the moment our skin touched, I knew something was horribly, terribly wrong. His hand was freezing, not cold from the November air, freezing, like touching a corpse that had been in a morgue for hours. And there was something else. His grip was too strong, way too strong for a 9-year-old boy. "Mr. Ranger," he said, still smiling that too wide smile. "Why did you stop playing?" "What?" I tried to pull my hand back. He held on tight. "Tyler, we need to." "I'm not Tyler." The thing wearing Tyler's face tilted its head at that impossible angle. In the beam of my flashlight, I saw its eyes. They were wrong, completely black, reflecting my light like an animal's eyes, but with no depth, no soul. "The real Tyler is already gone," it said in that child's voice. "He went so quickly, barely even screamed. But I still need to play. That's the rule. We always need someone to play with." I yanked my hand back with all my strength, finally breaking free. I stumbled backward, my flashlight falling, spinning on the ground. In the chaotic swirl of light and shadow, I saw it stand up. But it didn't stand like a person. It unfolded, like something that had been compressed into a child-sized space, and was finally allowed to stretch. It was tall, maybe 8 feet, way too thin, with arms that hung down past where its knees should be. And its face, God, its face was still Tyler's face, but stretched and distorted over a skull that was all wrong. I ran, didn't bother with the radio, didn't try to fight, just ran. Behind me, I heard it following. Not running, something else. A scratching, scuttling sound, like it was moving on all fours, or too many limbs, or... I didn't look back. Couldn't look back. The trees seemed to close in around me, branches grabbing at my clothes, roots trying to trip me. My flashlight was gone, and the darkness was absolute. I could hear my own gasping breaths, my heart hammering, and that thing behind me, getting closer, its voice calling out in perfect mimicry of a child. "Mr. Ranger, where are you going? We were having so much fun. Come back and play with me." I don't remember how I found the trail. Pure luck, maybe. Or maybe it let me find it. I burst out onto the path and ran straight into 2 other rangers who'd heard the commotion. "Thorn, what the hell?" "Something's out there," I gasped. "Not Tyler. Something else. We need to leave. Now." They must have seen something in my face, because they didn't argue. We radioed the team, packed it in for the night, told the parents we'd resume at first light. We found Tyler Morrison's body the next morning, or what was left of it. He was 3 miles from where I'd encountered the thing, in an area we'd already searched twice. The coroner later told me the time of death was approximately 5:15 p.m., more than an hour before I'd found Tyler sitting on that log. But here's what broke me. What made me turn in my badge and never look back. When they did the autopsy, they found something in Tyler's jacket pocket. A note, written in a child's handwriting. "Thank you for playing with me, Mr. Ranger. Same time next year." After I left the Park Service, I started digging, looking into missing persons cases in national parks. The official number is around 1,600 people who vanished without a trace in the last 100 years. But when you dig deeper, when you read the reports filed by rangers and rescue workers, you find patterns, disturbing patterns. Children were found miles from where they disappeared, with no memory of how they got there. Kids who say they were playing with the friendly man or following the nice lady. Rescue workers who report hearing voices, seeing figures that match the missing person's description, only to have the real body turn up somewhere else entirely later. And notes. So many notes left at the scenes. Different handwriting, different words, but always the same message. "Thank you for playing." I thought I was done with it. Thought I could move on. Try to forget. I moved 3 states away. Took a job in IT. Tried to build a normal life. For almost 2 years, I succeeded. Then last week, I got a package in the mail. No return address. Inside was a child's drawing, kind a 9-year-old might make. Stick figures in a forest. One stick figure was labeled Mr. Ranger. The others had no faces. Just black circles for heads. At the bottom of the drawing, in that same childish handwriting, "I miss you. It's almost time to play again. November 12th. I'll be waiting." That's in 3 days. I don't know what to do. I don't know if I can ignore it, if I can just not show up. Part of me thinks that's exactly what it wants, to terrify me, to make me live in fear. But another part of me, the part that still wakes up screaming about that night in the Smokies, knows that if I don't go back, it'll come find me instead. So I'm going. November 12th. Great Smoky Mountains National Park. Alum Cave Trail. I'm gonna be there, just like it wants. And I'm gonna do whatever it takes to end this. If you're hearing this recording, it means I didn't make it back. It means that whatever's out there in those woods, whatever's been taking people for decades, maybe centuries at one. To anyone planning a trip to a national park, please, listen to me. Stay on the trails. Don't investigate strange sounds. Don't follow voices, even if they sound like they need help. And if you see a child alone in the woods, a child who seems too calm, too friendly, who wants to play, run. Just run. Because the forest is always hungry, and it's always looking for someone new to play with. My name is Robert Thorne, and I'm sorry I couldn't save Tyler Morrison. I'm sorry I couldn't save any of them. God help me, I'm going back into those woods. And I don't think I'm coming out.